Got a few things to share. Went to the eye doctor and found out why, and kind of makes sense now why you notice I have to put on an extra pair of reading glasses just to see with my regular glasses on, because I have bifocals, but if I read with my bifocals, then you'll see me with my head up in the air, and of course looking down at the bifocals. So rather than have to do that, I just put these on. But on March the 25th, which is a Wednesday, I had an eye appointment. I actually have had this eye appointment for a couple months now, and I had actually told them when I made the appointment in January, I believe, I said, there's no rush. Well, of course, in January and February, I noticed my eyesight has been getting progressively worse, which is kind of frustrating. It's like, what is going on? So, went to the eye doctor. And actually, I wasn't due back until this summer, because it'll be a year this summer. I have what they call diabetic retinopathy with macular edema. They did a very thorough eye exam, and she even did an eye exam. She's an optometrist. I'd never seen her before. I actually switched eye doctors this year because I wanted to go to an eye doctor where they have more advanced technology, and they also have ophthalmologists there if I should need one. My thinking was probably in the future I'd need one for cataracts. Well, not only do I have the diabetic retinopathy with macular edema, I have vitreomacular traction, which she said a lot of people get that. It comes with age. She said, no, actually, I take that back. A lot of people don't get that. And it just so happens I happen to be, of course, why not? I'm one of them that has that. But that's nothing concerning, and they're just going to watch that. And then I also have a combined form of senile, I think that's funny, senile cataract. So in other words, it's probably the first stages, which does make sense because I know the sun has been really bothering me this past winter with driving. And of course, like I said, in December, I really noticed a difference in my in the sun, but not really my sight. My sight, it seemed the same until, of course, January, definitely by the end of February, and definitely in March. Even I could just to look at the computer, I have to get right up on it. Even with my reading glasses, it doesn't help. I almost actually have to take my glasses off and just get up on the computer. And when I saw the optometrist on Wednesday, I even made the comment to her. I said, something's not right. I said, it's been happening for a while now. And I said, I don't believe this is correct. And she smiled and she said, you're correct. It's not right. There is definitely not right. So then, of course, after she did the eye exam, she actually showed me my eye on the exam, and it told me everything there that I have. And then she wanted me to see one of their ophthalmologists. And as I'm leaving, she walks me out to the receptionist and said, I want her to see an ophthalmologist Friday. And this was a Wednesday. So she did not want me to even wait till next week. And of course, try not to let that concern me too much, but it did. That's very concerning. And so on Friday, my husband, he actually got that day off because we were pretty sure. I'll take that back. I didn't think they would dilate my eyes and everything because they had the scans. Well, my sister and my husband both felt very strongly that they were going to dilate me again, which means I shouldn't be driving. And so I told him, I said, well, I'll just sit in the car, even if it's for an hour or two, I'll sit until I can see better. But he insisted on he got the day off from work, thankfully. So I'm so glad, because when we were leaving Friday, because it was during the day, so the sun was out. It was like around 2-ish. No, my pardon. It was around probably 11. So the sun was really just coming down, and when he was going to cross, I usually, will help him, like, okay, it's clear. And I said, I think it's clear. And he said, no, it's not. And so of course he couldn't use my help. So anyway, back to Friday. I saw the ophthalmologist. He did all the scans just like the optometrist did on Wednesday and came up with the same thing. And then he recommended that I have what's called ANTI-VEGF, anti-fish, basically injections. It's medications that are injected into the eye. And I know it sounds scary. And when he first said that, I tried not to let it scare me, but thankfully I didn't really have time to think about it because he wanted to do it now. And of course, I had this. He didn't do it. I mean, without I had to give my consent. And I mean, what do you say? Yeah, let's do it. So I wanted to kind of go over that too, just for if you find out that you've got this, you have, even if it's not diabetic, if you have some kind of retinopathy and they recommend injections in your eyes, don't get scared. It's not scary. It's they numb you up very, very well. They of course, I was already dilated, so couldn't see that well. But he came in, of course, and then he left after he talked to me, and the technician, she came in, and my husband, I couldn't see because I had my glasses on, not very well, but he said he was very impressed that when she put everything down, he said she actually, say she opened up the package, and he said she just literally let it fall on the table after she had already, of course, made sure that the table was sterile. What she put up, I don't remember what else she did, but the table was sterile. Then she opened up the package and let the items fall on the table. He said she never touched anything. And he actually, of course, went over all the what could happen, if my eye could get infected if it wasn't sterile, etc. So of course I had to agree to that. And of course, if I moved, he reiterated what would happen if I moved. So of course I was scared to breathe. I'm like, okay, I don't even want to breathe. So anyway, I'm kind of backing up, but it was kind of funny afterwards. My husband later that day, he said, well, did he go in? Where did he do the injection? And I said, I have no idea. I said, you were sitting there. And he said the doctor was in his way, so he couldn't see. I said, when he told me to find a spot to look at, I didn't move. I said, I have no idea. I said, I think it was in the corner because I'm pretty sure I remember him pulling my eyelid down just a little bit. But back to how it was. Once she put the numbing in, and they didn't have to wait. Usually with a dentist, you have to wait, it seems, for a little bit for it to numb. He came right on back in and told me what I need to do. I'm pretty sure he told me to look for a spot, or either that could have been when they did the other test. I'm pretty sure it was for this, but he told me to find a spot and look at it, or he may have even told me where to look. And then he told me, of course, not to move. And I thought about this later. I had my phone in my pocket, so thankfully, and I had put it on silence, but thankfully I didn't get any kind of messages because I would have had to have ignored it. But I think next time I will give the phone to my husband. But anyhow, back to what happened. So once he told me, he said, now just be very still. And I could feel him, I think, pulling down the corner of my eye. I'm almost for sure. And then I could feel the needle penetrating, but yet I couldn't feel it. It's hard to explain. It didn't hurt, no pain, but you definitely knew he was doing something. And thankfully it was over pretty fast. And then of course did the other eye. So I had an injection in both my eyes. And that day, even my husband asked me that night, he says, can you tell the difference? And I'm like, nope, everything looks the same, which is not very good. So, but the next morning, I didn't see a big change, and I still don't see a big change, but I could actually see a slight change. I don't have to get as close up to the computer now when I'm looking at doing bills, or looking at my email. I don't have to get as close, and I can actually use my reading glasses again. And somewhat, it's still a little bit better. It's still better if I take my glasses off and just kind of get close to the screen. But it was this is what was very encouraging, because normally, husband and I, we like to watch TV in the afternoon, like when we have our dinner. And I don't sit real close to the TV, but I sit fairly, close enough that I can see it without any issues until the last several months. It's to the point now or it was to the point where if writing came up on the screen, I couldn't see it. I'd have to ask my husband, what did that say? And this was on Friday. Saturday afternoon when we sat down for dinner, I could actually see the writing. And if I put my head up so I could use my bifocals, I could see it pretty good. So it's definitely already worked. He did tell me that he thinks I'll possibly need 2 to 4 more injections. So 2 to 4 are rather altogether. My husband thought he heard him say 5, but I thought I heard 4. So if my husband's correct and he heard 5, then I'm looking at 4 more injections. If I'm correct, I'm looking at 3 more. So my next appointment is May the 4th for another set of injections. So we'll see then. Hopefully the doctor might even know by then, or he may not know, because I know they'll do another scan. They may not do a scan, but they'll do another test, with my eyes. Because what they did before is they had me cover up, one eye and then had me read, and I couldn't hardly see, of course, anything. So that's where I'm at with this. Just wanted to share, and I thought I would share. There's a picture of Ginger. She had to get a little bit closer so she could be with me. So anyway, that's where we're at right now. All right. Oh, I forgot to add, when the ophthalmologist saw me, he mentioned that I've only had this for about 3 to 4 months, which makes complete sense because that's about when I started noticing slight changes that back in December that progressively started getting worse until, of course, when I saw him in March.